So, okay. No, one said yes, one said no. One told
are asleep. Let's try it one more time. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Oh, that's much better. How's everyone? Okay, all right. We'll take that. I'll take that. Welcome to the Winslow Township Board of Education's regular meeting. Today is Wednesday, April 24th, 2024. Public notice of this meeting was given to all board members and associates in a notice dated January 5th, 2024. Adequate and electronic notice of this public meeting has been provided specifying the time, place, and manner in which this meeting is being conducted. It was advertised in the Courier Post, posted in all schools, the administration office, the municipal building, the library, the Bud Dubel Center, Edgewood Acres, Elmtown, and the Winslow Township post offices. And this is our mission statement. The mission of the Winslow Township School District, a large, diverse, and growing community, is to educate all students to become independent, lifelong learners, critical thinkers, caring, and confident members of their community. The district, in partnership with the community and in a climate of cooperation and mutual respect, will provide an academic environment which values excellence and diversity, encourages our students to strive for personal excellence, and assists them in acquiring the knowledge, the skills, and the attitudes necessary to contribute positively to a rapidly changing world. Roll call, please.
Mr. Askew? Ms. Dredden? Ms. Martin?
Present.
Ms. Nieves?
Present.
Ms. Peterson?
Present.
Mr. Shaw?
Present.
Ms. Thomas?
Ms. Thomas, again, is going to be joining us through WebEx. Did she respond? Mhm.
Mr. Thomas?
Present.
Ms. Pitts?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Chico. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Utilizing all available and appropriate instructional models. This shall include A, develop plans to increase the graduation rate. B, increase project students. C, increase in benchmark scores and incorporate ELA in the end year. D, accountability for all district staff and officials. Number 2, increase parent and caregiver engagement. A, provide opportunities for two-way communication with district stakeholders. B, implement a culture and climate survey. Number 3, market our strengths and achievements to all stakeholders to increase capacity for greater care, caregiver, and community support. A, work with communication consortium. B, continue with our public relations and marketing. C, continue to work with the various advisory committees in the district. And D, focus on refining our communication methods and methods, better market presence.
Thank you, Mr. Askew. And as soon as our students, I say you return, they return you a mic. Okay. Moving now, board members, page 2, awards and presentations. Dr. Poteet?
Yes, good evening, Madam President, members of the board and community. We do have a presentation scheduled for this evening. At this time, I would like to call the principal, Ms. McBride, to the mic to introduce her staff and students. Ms. McBride?
Little technical support needed. Testing.
How about now?
Mhm.
All right, good evening, everyone. Dr. Poteet, Dr. Carpamo, Mrs. Pitts and the entire board, Mr. Davis, and Winslow School families. On behalf of School 2, I would like to introduce to you some of our fantastic School 2 students. Tonight, our talented School 2 students will present a heartfelt poem focusing on autism as we recognize and celebrate Autism Awareness Month and Poetry Month. This poem beautifully expresses understanding compassion, inclusivity, showcasing our students' talents and unique perspectives. In addition, members of our second grade chorus will be performing two uplifting songs. The first, which is Diamond, it symbolizes our shining light on autism, spreading awareness and acceptance throughout our community. The second song, School 2 Rocks, embodies our school spirit, celebrating our students' diverse strengths and achievements. We're so proud of our students, their creativity, their dedication to raising awareness on autism. Performances tonight are a testament to the hard work, dedication of our staff members, Ms. Purcell, Ms. Sippel, and Mr. McCabe, who have worked hard with the students to prepare. Once again, we extend our heartfelt, warmest welcome and thank all of you for joining us in the celebration of Autism Awareness Month and Poetry Month. Introducing our School 2 students.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Caleb Zodawa. Tonight, we want to share with you a special poem about autism and the importance of embracing differences.
It's not working.
No, come on, guys.
Hold on.
Say it again, say it again. Autism is a unique thing to see the world. Our poem will shine a light on autism. In a world of colors, we all shine bright, but some see the world in a different light. Autism, a journey with its own pace, a beautiful spectrum, a unique embrace. Autism brings a heightened sensitivity to the world. Our poem highlights this aspect. Sounds and light, a sensory delight, can sometimes become overwhelming, causing a fright. But in this world of sensitivity, we learn to navigate love and creativity. Autism comes with a unique strength that deserves celebration. With focus and passions, talents unfold, music, art, and stories untold. Autism gifts like stars in the night illuminate the world with their shining light. Our poem emphasizes the importance of inclusion and understanding. Let's embrace each other hand in hand in a world where empathy takes a stand. With kindness and patience, we'll pave the way for a world where acceptance blooms every day. Remember, our differences make us beautifully unique. Together, we can build a more inclusive society. Let's celebrate diversity and spread love and understanding. Thank you for listening to a poem about autism. Let's continue to create a world where everyone feels valued and embraced.
Ms. McBride, could you cut back to the mic for a minute, please? Parents, just don't leave just yet. Just yet, if you could give us just a minute. One of the things that I wanted to especially make mention of was the first group, Ms. McBride. They're all school 2 students, and the first group was that first grade. Okay. I hope the parents realize preschool all the way to third grade. I hope we realize how resourceful that first group was. Even though our technical kind of slipped up a little, they didn't miss a beat. And I hope you noticed that. So I'd like to give them a special applause for that. So those are the kinds of students that certainly we're hoping will grow into adults that are just as resourceful. So thank you, Ms. McBride. And thank you to this teacher who is over here giving his signals the way that the coaches and do it, that was great. That was great. Thank you. Moving right along, board member, continuing with our agenda. Correspondence. Ms. Chico, would there be any correspondence at this time?
Yes, Madam President, there is one piece of correspondence.
Ms. Chico, hold on for just 1 minute. Let's let the parents who are going to clear out. Okay, Ms. Chico, correspondence?
Yes, there is one piece of correspondence, Madam President, and it's an email dated April 18th from Suzanne Abdil, the Executive County Business.
Is your mic? Yeah, it's on.
Hello. Okay. I'll see if I can do this. Yes, there's a piece of correspondence, an email dated April 18th to myself and Mrs. Boyle from Suzanne Abdil. She's the Executive County Business Official. She's informing us that our district's 24-25 budget has been approved.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you. Any more correspondence? Or does that conclude it?
That concludes correspondence.
Okay, thank you. Board members, at this time, I'm asking for a motion to approve our meeting minutes from our Board of Education's regular meeting, which was held March 27th, 2024, both open and closed session. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve our Wednesday, March 27th, 2024, regular meeting, open and closed session.
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Mr. Askew. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Askew? Ms. Dredden?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Nieves?
Abstain.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas? Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Pitts?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you, Ms. Chico. Just a reminder, board members, when we're going to the roll call and we get to Ms. Kelly Thomas, it'll be a little delayed because, of course, she's calling in. At this time, board members, we're going to go through our board committee reports. Starting with our athletic committee, Mr. Thomas, would there be any report out of our athletic committee at this time?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we didn't have a full body meeting due to conflicts of interest, busy schedules, but keeping in tune with the committee's goal of athletic achievement and the emotional social learning and other things that are going on. We wanted to give a report because our students keep achieving despite all the efforts. First, I want to talk about the Woodbury relays. The boys and the girls together, first time in 20 years, won the Woodbury Relays as a team, which is a great feat. So let me give you some highlights. The 4x100-meter relay finals, first place. Boys 4x110 shuttle hurdle relay, second place. Boys 4x200-meter relay finals, fifth place. Boys 4x400-meter relay finals, first place. Boys sprint medley relay finals, first place. Boys 4x800-meter relay finals, second place. Boys distant medley relay, seventh place, and a new Woodbury championship. But it doesn't end there. The week before that, it was the Bristol relays that both boys and girls track team came out victorious. And let me give you some highlights for that. Dominic Bassi, first place. Chuckawumakay AJ Bloom, fourth place. Boys 4x100-meter relay, first place. Boys 4x110 shuttle hurdle relays, third place. Boys 4x200-meter relay, first place. Boys 800-meter sprint relay finals, second place. Boys javelin finals, boys 4x800-meter relay, fourth place, and a new Bristol championship. So let's talk about academic athletic achievement. Miss Aya Bronner, Student of the Month, Athlete of the Month, one of the fastest sophomore girls in the country, and is Student of the Month academically. So let me give you some highlights on the girl. The Winslow girls track team brought home the Woodbury Relay title. These ladies kept the composure, handled the load we put on them in amazing fashion. They went from race to race, jump to jump with grace, and literally left it all on the track and in the sand. They entered each race with a positive mindset and worked their butts off. We had the fastest time of the day in the 4x800 at 9.45, and in the 4x4, 3.51. And also won the sprint medley in the school record fashion of 4 minutes and 9 seconds. They also placed second in the shuttle hurdles, 4x1 and the 4x2. They did the darn thing. Marcia Browner was named MVP in the field athletics by winning both long jump and triple jump, and it doesn't end there. School 6 has started their social and emotional learning intramural pilot program at School 6. We have 25 to 30 students on Tuesdays and Thursdays, grades 4th to 6th. It's a new pilot program, and I heard it's doing well. And that concludes, oh, one more thing, let's not forget. Our band also competed last week and came second, and we can include them as the athletic committee, as cornerstones of our districts. And we all need a cornerstone to hold up the building. And that concludes my report.
Mr. Thomas, that was a pretty comprehensive report on the accomplishments of our students, but coming out of your athletic committee, is there a recommendation? Are there any recommendations from your committee to the board?
Just to continue to support our athletic environment, just to pay attention on how smart these kids are and how they are the jewel of our district.
Okay, thank you. Moving now, Citizens Advisory Committee, Ms. Martin.
Yes, you have a report. Ms. Claude.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Excuse me, Ms. Lord, can you speak into your mic because we're not hearing too well. It's not coming through too well. Yes.
Happens every week.
Good evening. The Winslow Township School District Citizens Advisory Committee meeting minutes for April the 15th, 2024. The monthly meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee was held on Thursday, April the 15th, 2024, beginning at 7:05 p.m. In attendance were Wanda Glaude, Meg Hogan, Jennifer Moss, Christy Ronzulli, Marcy Tomasello, Greg Wake. Absent were Faye Crooks and Rosemary Hoffman. Representing the Board of Education was Rita Martin. The first order of discussion was to thank the board for its voting to send the proposed changes to the cell phone policy back to the policy committee. The members also wanted to note that the board band door has been replaced, and we'd like to thank you. It was also noted that during the recent play, the roof leaked into the closet housing costumes, which caused damage. The water also flowed across the hallway into the auditorium. This leak had been reported before this incident. Members suggested that the contents of the closet and other areas affected as a result of the leak be relocated to a safer place until the maintenance is repaired of the roof. It was also suggested that some of the costumes and props may need cleaning due to mold and mildew from the water damage issues, and that the costs be not put on the drama department. A recommendation to the Board of Education was adopted, asking the Board of Education to revise the board policy number 8651, community use of transportation, in parentheses M. First, the CAC is recommending that the nonprofit organizations be allowed to use school buses. Second, we recommend that the nonprofit organizations be the same stated in the current policy, which would limit the use by the location of the program. Last, we are recommending that all groups should be able to have access to the bus on weekends and during summer vacation time. A copy of our recommendation is attached to the minutes, and I will read after the conclusion of the minutes. Discussion on one-on-one technology was discussed at length. Surveys from the local districts show how the use of one-on-one technology has improved student achievement and testing and regular day-to-day instruction, but also includes the increased parental involvement as an added bonus to having students have a Chromebook or similar device at home and at school. The recommendation was previously made by the CAC at a previous meeting, and we would like to know if there's any updates from the Board of Education on any kind of discussion regarding one-on-one technology. As per Dr. Poteet, it is up to the Board of Education. Other matters that we discussed: high school morning announcements should be more welcoming, not negative and repetitive every day. An effort to retain our staff in a very competitive market, the suggestion of bonuses to staff who have been exemplary be made. High school lobby has a harassment and bullying drop box hanging in the wall. It does not promote the positive image we are attempting to make on our visitors. The next one is ESS workers are substitutes and schools not teaching what is expected of them. Pre-K registration timelines and filing have been confusing to some parents because some schools were still accepting applications and others weren't because they were full. Better communication with parents on why their applications were not accepted was suggested. And we also suggested that the parents that were in question go ahead and continue to register their children just in case at the end of the, before the beginning of the school year, there's a possibility an opening may happen and the child still will be called to be able to get into the school. Dr. Poteet did try to communicate effectively in regards to the limited space on the preschool, and we also made sure that was a note with the CAC during our meeting that the communication was out there. However, some parents just didn't receive that memo. And now I'd like to read the recommendation from the Citizens Advisory Board regarding the community of transportation, in parentheses M. The Citizens Advisory Committee is making the recommendation to the Board of Education that they consider revising policy number 8651, community use of transportation, in parentheses M, to include the township's nonprofit organizations and the permitted uses of the school district's transportation. We also recommend that the revision allow for nonprofit organizations use limited by location of this program. Last, we recommend that the board consider allowing transportation to be used on weekends and summer vacation time when it would not interfere with school programs. And we are also aware that with this recommendation, that if any nonprofit organization is to be granted to use the school transportation, that they would be required to have the appropriate insurances that will cover it, and it possibly could be a charge or not a charge to the nonprofit organizations. That concludes the minutes for the CAC. Are there any questions for us?
Ms. Claude, just a few questions now. Exactly how many, out of this report, how many recommendations are you submitting to the board?
Today, we're submitting a new recommendation, which is the policy for 8621 for the school public
Oh, and
school
that's for
transportation.
today?
We've already submitted the recommendation when we spoke on asking for one-on-one technology. We originally asked for it to be in the September 24 school year, for it to be for middle school and high school students if the funding was limited, but we would like it to go from K through 12. And I did research, as some of the board members requested me to do, and I reached out to 5 different schools and the surrounding areas, and those superintendents were graciously enough to respond to me, and they gave me some very positive feedback in regards to how one-on-one technology, especially with the teacher shortage that we have across the nation, that is very essential. It's an essential tool that helps them to help our children to continue to learn, even if they're absent. If the educator is absent, that's a way for them to communicate to the substitute teachers. And it's also another way that they can gauge whether or not students, what level they're on in the classroom, where they can have a little bit more one-on-one with the students. So I asked if you all need any of the investigation research that I have, I can provide it for you. I don't have it with me tonight, but I can provide it to the board. But I do ask the board that you all look into that recommendation to get one-on-one technology in our schools, because we shouldn't be one of the largest districts in our community, in the surrounding areas, and one of the only schools who don't have it. And there is plenty of ways where we can control the cost. In regards to one of the questions that came to me was, our statements was, after the pandemic, a lot of the Chromebooks did not return, and if they were returned, they were broken. Well, that's why we put policies in place. Before those Chromebooks are issued out to the students, and the parents and the students have to agree on it. And if there's a damaged computer, it comes back with a charge. And then you can assess on how you want to allow whether the student gets their report card at the end of the year, or how, so be it, whatever the policy may state. But many of the schools have found it to be cost effective as a great learning tool, and it is helping their students to be more engaged no matter what their social economic background is. Every child is learning, and no kid is being left behind through the educational system by not being able to read, write, or be computer literate by the time they get out of high school.
Ms. Claude, that recommendation, that one-on-one technology, certainly would warrant more discussion. And so actually that discussion would take place with our superintendent. And so absolutely we will, I'm sure that he's going to consider that. What I'd like to do, Ms. Claude, is to at some point before our next board meeting, if not before our next board meeting, for your next CAC meeting. When is your next CAC meeting?
It's always the first Thursday of every month.
Okay, the first Thursday of every month. I'm going to have a conversation with Dr. Poteet with regards to that particular recommendation, so that we, as a board, can take a look at that and consider that and get his input on that to find out if indeed that's a recommendation that we could consider and be able to determine the benefits. Now, that's that recommendation. Now, the one for tonight, you said was policy 8651.
Yes.
8651.
And policy 8651 has to do with community transportation?
No, it has to do with the school transportation. The school
With the
buses.
bus, yes.
The school bus,
Yes,
yes.
exactly. And so therefore, your recommendation is based on what? And
Is
what's
to be able
the
to open
reason?
it up to the nonprofit organizations in our community that offer different activities for the children throughout the summer and throughout the year, as long as it does not interfere with the school normal day of operations.
Now, Ms. Claude, one of the things that we have to consider with regards to that recommendation is the way in which the policy 8651, and it is a mandated policy from the state, which means absolutely we have to follow that. The recommendations that's coming from the CAC, certain parts of that recommendation are counter to the policy. One in particular, there's a portion of that policy that reads, no transportation will be supplied for weekends, holidays, summer vacation time, or for the purpose of attendance political activities. The board reserves the right to refuse or cancel any community transportation in the interest of the educational program or the efficient operation of the district. So we cannot, looking at your recommendation, that you allow transportation to be used on weekends and summer vacation time, but according to the policy, we can't. So
Well,
I
what
want-
we ask is at any time when any recommendations are made and presented to the board, is that an answer doesn't come back immediately to us, because we do know that you have to sit around and you have to discuss it, especially in your policy committees. And if the answer is still no, and that's your answer after it's been discussed and after all the litigations have been looked upon and made sure that it is actual, that it cannot be done, of course we would accept it. But to just be given a blanket no right when the recommendation was just made, we find that to be unfair when it has not been discussed with your committee.
But Ms. Claude, I'm not giving you a blanket no. What I'm giving you is a reply.
And as I
I'm
just
giving you-
stated,
I'm giving you a
you're
reply.
not the only one on the policy committee board.
Ms. Claude, I'm giving you a reply. And if you allow us as a board to come back to you, once the policy committee takes a look at this, and as a matter of fact, the policy committee will be meeting tomorrow.
That's
But I
perfect.
want you to be clear that this is not a blanket no. However, Ms. Claude, you have to understand that once the CAC presents a recommendation, it's only common courtesy that we reply, and that's all that I was doing.
I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Any
Yes.
other recommendations?
Well, I do want to apologize. On our minutes, I did skip over something very important, and I do apologize to the parents who submitted this to us. Recent testing was also discussed. It was brought to the group's attention that the testing locations were very different. Some students tested in the quiet library, while other students were taking their test in the cafeteria on uncomfortable chairs and the noise of the cafeteria workers as they prepared lunch. It was the consensus of the group that the disparity of locations does not provide equal testing environment for the students. And so all the CAC asks is that this be looked into to make sure that every child who takes these tests have a fair playing ground, a fair educational ground, and a fair ground in order to be able to concentrate to take these tests. And maybe that will help with our state exam numbers as well. Because we as the CAC know that we don't have stupid children in our school. We have highly intelligent children in our school. Unfortunately, the state exam is not reflecting the highly intelligent children that are leaving out of Winslow Township. And we want to make sure that our children are granted all accesses to be able to be given the opportunity to give our school district the numbers that our school district rightfully it deserves of, and our children deserve. So if we can have someone look into the place and make sure that all of the students have equally sound, secure environments, productive and producive environments when they're taking the test, and not put in places where there's noise and distraction. That was brought to us by parents.
Okay, that's reasonable, and thank you for that. I'm sure Dr. Poteet will check into that.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. And we appreciate you for listening.
thank you. Would there be a report out of our education committee?
Mrs. Pitts, before you go any further, just a follow-up to one issue that was raised. Winslow Township has been one-on-one in technology since COVID. So we've always had one-on-one technology. That's not the issue. I think when I responded during the budget hearing, I made it clear that the decision that the board would have to make is whether or not the young people can take that technology home, not that it wasn't available. As you recall, at the budget hearing, I made it very clear that Winslow Township School District has been one-on-one in technology since 2019 or whenever the COVID was, because at that time, we were required to make sure that all students had access to technology. We provided that, and we provided hotspots for those who did not have internet access. That is not the issue for the district. The issue at hand is whether or not the board will allow young people to take those computers home on a daily basis, meaning one be assigned to each student so that they can take it home on a daily basis. So that's the question before the board, not the availability of technology. It's whether or not they'll be able to take it home on a daily basis.
Thank you, Dr. Poteet. Moving now, will there be a report out of our marketing committee?
Madam President, you had skipped over education, and there is no report at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Sorry for that. Moving now to our marketing committee. Will there be a report out of our marketing committee?
Yes, I do have a report.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Dale, we do have order in our meetings, and it is not in the best interest of anyone to shout out from a seated position. And if you cannot hear, we're going to make sure that we're speaking into the mics so that everyone can hear. To sit and just shout from your seat is, as you well, I'm sure you well know, is not proper procedure. So we understand if you can't hear, we're going to do our best to make sure that you can hear us. Okay? All right? Okay.
Testing?
Ms. Nieves,
Okay, I think the mic is on now.
your mic is on?
Yes.
All right.
The marketing,
Because you do have a very soft voice.
I'm sorry, I don't want to bring out my mom voice tonight. Okay.
Yeah, bring out your mom voice. Yes.
The marketing committee met on March 25th, 2024. The meeting began at 5:30. Present were myself, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Shaw, and Mr. Dion Davis from the administration. Topics discussed, the district budget concerns and marketing these meetings to the public, the Alumni Wall of Fame, the next chat with a board member needing to be scheduled. There was some discussion regarding whether we will have that in person or virtual and the location of that meeting. Discussion regarding a possible campaign by the board to make the community aware of the role and responsibility of the board. There was some discussion regarding the lack of a district calendar of events for all schools, and it would be helpful to know which schools were performing at upcoming board meetings to further publicize that. There was discussion on the role of the marketing committee now that the PR tasks are being handled, a possible movement to a community liaison committee, discussion on how the board can work to market our schools utilizing school events, our staff, administration, and board in a partnership. Question as to the status of the district having a spot in the township newsletter. Suggestion of the board putting out its own newsletter. Discussion as to the direction and participation of members of the marketing committee. We were set to next meet on April 17th. I noted that we canceled due to needing to present these suggestions and recommendations to the board, and there only being one meeting in April due to spring break. So the two things that I think require board discussion are the next chat with a board member, which we are due to hold, as well as the role of the marketing committee, which we can discuss now or during new business if the board deems it appropriate.
No, well, actually, since we're coming out with doing the board reports, Ms. Nieves, those two, that you mentioned can be discussed now. Would there be any other item on your list of discussions, discussions that you would want to recommend other than those two?
Yes, just please to have a district-wide calendar. Just when we were thinking about when to schedule the next chat with a board member, it's very difficult when we don't know which events are going on at which schools. The calendars on our website don't always show far enough ahead into the future, and we don't want to have a conflict of interest and have parents have to choose which event to come out to.
So let's take a look.
Madam President, I do have a question, if I may, or if you want me to delay it, I can.
No, Mr. Thomas, we're discussing.
In the matter of the budget hearing that I believe is on May 1st, what other mechanisms are we marketing to make sure that stakeholders in the community are a part of this budget hearing? And so I believe it's a $39 million hearing that they need to be in. So what efforts are we taking to make sure that every stakeholder, every nonprofit, every citizen, every community, every parent is aware of this hearing?
Dr. Poteet?
Well, at this point, Mr. Thomas, we are going to follow our normal procedures for advertising board meetings. I will be doing a robocall to all of the parents within the district. Now, as far as those individuals outside of the district, we don't have that type of connectivity, so I'm not sure how we're going to reach out to those individuals. Do you have any recommendations?
I do. I think we should at least send a letter to all our faith-based organizations, all our nonprofits that may not be parents, so therefore they wouldn't receive the robocall, all our committeemen, all our township leaders, to inform them of such a magnificent process. Because I was in a meeting the other day, and this is a concern, not as a concern in a negative way. I just feel that the stakeholders in our community, whether they are parents or not, if they are applicable to taxpaying, or if they're living in Winslow Township, to at least be given the opportunity to participate in this great event of the task of passing a budget.
Dr. Poteet, is there any additional
No, I think
steps?
if Mr. Thomas is going to provide us with that contact information, we'll be more than happy to use it. Some of those individuals we already have contact to, but at this point, if he can provide us with that information, we'll be more than happy to secure it.
So therefore now we're talking about our hearing, which takes place May 1st, which
Yes.
if I read the calendar correctly, that's
Yes.
next Wednesday, which is
Yes.
exactly 1 week from today.
Yes. Now, it was already advertised in the Courier Post, as we normally do.
It's in the Courier Post.
Yes.
So
Now-
the Courier Post is a widely disseminated publication.
Yes, but that was April 26th, was it?
Yes, the advertised budget is going to be published in the newspaper on April 26th.
Ms. Chico, can you speak
Sorry, I'm
into
trying
the?
to. So the advertised budget for the 24-25 school year is going to be advertised in the Courier Post on Friday, April 26th.
Okay, so it's going into the Courier Post.
Yes.
We're using all of our particular outlets. Mr. Thomas, would you want to add anything further to that?
Will it be posted also on the website, our Facebook page, and once again, the robocalls will be found, and I'll be getting a list together and sending out tomorrow, that we make sure that we do all we can to inform every resident in this township of such an event.
So, Mr. Thomas, the list that you're getting, you're going to give that over to Dr. Poteet, or?
I'm going to share with everybody, as I always do.
No, okay, now I need for you to explain, you're going to share with everybody. What does that mean exactly?
Everyone inside the board community will see the attachment that I sent off.
Attachment and.
Of the list.
Of the list, and it's going to be, and what mechanism are you going to use?
Please explain that.
What
When you say
mechanism
mechanism,
are you
please
going to
explain it.
use? By that, I mean, what is the way in which you're going to disseminate the
Explain
list
that.
that you
I don't
have?
understand that
Okay,
verbiage
I'll
of the
make
language.
it plain
Make
and
it plain.
clear. The list that you have, are you going to turn that list over to the administration so that the administration can take steps to make sure that that information goes out to any groups that we may be missing?
That is correct. That's what I'll do.
Thank you.
Mrs. Pitts, because it's timely.
Yes, it is. We only have a
Tomorrow's
week.
Thursday,
Mhm.
so if he has, Mr. Thomas have email addresses, that sort of thing, because if you do by mail, chances are it won't get there in a timely manner. So if you have an email address for those entities, we'll be more than happy to make sure they receive it through email.
Yes, I will, but as I stated, this has not been the first request. I've been talking about this for a while, but you will get that tomorrow in an email fashion to make sure that our stakeholders, our community residents, and our parents are aware of this event.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I just want to make sure that we all understand that this is an annual event. It always happens. We must have a hearing for our budget. It's not anything out of the ordinary. It's not anything extraordinary. Every single district does it in the entire state. We must have a hearing. And as we have in the past, we have made sure that we comply with the state requirements. Ms. Nieves?
Yes, moving to the other two recommendations. I'm kind of still fleshing it out a little bit, quite simply, since reorganization and trying to kind of move the needle in the direction of the marketing committee, the committee has floundered a little bit. I had the opportunity to speak to another board member from another district during my Governance 3 training, and they have a community liaison committee as opposed to a marketing committee. And I'm still in contact with her, seeing as how they, run that committee. But I think it would align more appropriately with district goal number 3 in marketing. Now that we do have a PR person who's handling website, social media, that regard, I feel like moving the marketing committee towards, like what we've been doing with the chat with the board member, a bridge to board community and having that direct line of communication with stakeholders might be a more productive function for the marketing committee to continue in.
Okay, it sounds like something that might produce some positive results.
Yes, and then as far as the next chat with a board member, again, it's the end of the year. I know it's very hard to pick a date to schedule that with all of the other events going on. At our last chat with a board member, some community members, suggested maybe we should have that out in the community as opposed to, the administration building or here at the middle school, and, moving the chat out somewhere more centrally located. Or again, we can try virtual again. We did that, I believe, the first chat of the school year. It wasn't well attended. Our in-person ones have actually been better attended. But again, I will leave that up to the board and see who's available and how we feel on making that happen. Or if we push it to the summer after all of the end of year activities are finished.
I think with the first step before that next chat, Ms. Nieves, would be to set a date, because at this point we don't have a date.
Yeah, that's where we kind of ran into some difficulty, because again, not knowing when things were scheduled in all of our schools, I didn't want to pick, because I think our last chat with a board member, there was 2 other events going on in the district. So it's kind of hard. So maybe Dr. Poteet, you can assist me in some master calendar to see when would be the best date to schedule that, so we're not competing with, other events going on.
It's worth a try, but when you have the districts this large and you have 8 buildings and some things are bound to overlap. That's inevitable, but hopefully with some careful scheduling and planning, we can make sure that we get done what we have to make sure that comes through, especially the chat with the board members. Is there anything else, Ms. Nieves?
No, that was all.
Okay, thank you. Moving now to the Operations Committee.
Madam President, none at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Dredden. Moving now to our Policy Committee. Our report from the Policy Committee is as follows. The Policy Committee met on April 11th, 2024. Members in attendance was Dr. Poteet, Board Member Ms. Nieves, Board Member Mr. Shaw, Board Member Mr. Askew, Mr. Dion Davis, Human Resources, Director, and myself. Items discussed: Board Policy 5516, which of course is the use of electronic devices, basically is better known as the cell phone policy. The committee reviewed concerns noted at the last few board meetings and modified the existing policy. A recommendation is being made to change the disciplinary action as follows. The first and second offense, the electronic device must be given to the principal or the assistant principal, and the parent will be notified to pick up the devices. Refusal to give the device to the administrator for parent pickup will result in an automatic one-day out-of-school suspension. Now, moving on to a third offense, if there's a third time, the electronic device then must be given to the principal or the assistant principal, and the parent will be notified to pick up the device. Refusal to give the device to the administrator for parent pickup will result in an automatic one-day out-of-school suspension. A third offense will also result in a one-day out-of-school suspension, the loss of privilege to use their cell phone on school premises for the remainder of the school year, and the student will lose the privilege of participation in extracurricular activities such as prom, athletics, and graduation. And I think it's important to note that as a district, we don't want our students' cell phones, but we do want the students to abide by the policy which is created in order to make sure that classroom instruction with the teachers can take place in a normal fashion. Moving on, we also discussed board policy number 7510, use of school facilities. The committee sought clarification regarding the specific concerns with this noted policy. The recommendation was a follow-up discussion with the full board and the board solicitor for direction. The following board policies and regulations were reviewed for revisions and recommended for first reading at this evening's April 24th, 24 board meeting. Policies number 1140, policies number 1523, policy number 1530, policy number 1550, policy number 3211, policy number 5570, policy number 5750, policy number 5755, policy number 5841, and policy number 5842. Most of those policies had a very minor changes. Some of it was just the wording. At the conclusion of this meeting, Ms. Nieves asked if we could review the gifted and talented policy and process for admission at our next policy meeting. The next policy meeting is scheduled for Thursday, tomorrow, April 25th, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. via Zoom. So, board members, as far as the recommendations out of the policy committee, are there any questions or comments before we move for this to be the first reading? Questions, comments? Okay. All right, hearing none. So we will consider that this policy, specifically policy 5516, is the first reading. Okay. All right, now, board members, before we move from our committee reports, I think it's important, especially because there's been some hiccups with regards to committee meetings, and perhaps it came about as a result of us only having one board meeting this month of April. What I'm asking each of the chairs, and that's Mr. Thomas, Ms. Martin, who's an administrative advisor, Ms. Peterson, Ms. Nieves, Ms. Dredden, to submit to Ms. Chico your schedule. That is, when does your committee meet? What time, what is your schedule? For instance, I can tell Ms. Chico tonight that the policy committee meets every fourth Thursday of the month. We meet at 4:30. It will either be in person or Zoom. So I'm going to move now to Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas, when is your regularly scheduled athletic committee meet?
We meet the first Tuesday of the last board meeting of the month.
The first Tuesday?
The Tuesday before the last board meeting of the month.
Okay. So since the last board meeting of the month is usually the fourth Wednesday, so you meet the fourth Tuesday, Mr. Thomas?
If it falls on that, that's when we meet.
Okay. And at what time?
2 p.m. Zoom.
Okay. The education, Ms. Chico, did you get that?
Yes, I did.
The Education Committee, Ms. Peterson?
Meets
you're-
at 4 o'clock via Zoom, or WebEx, not Zoom. The third Tuesday of each month, similar to last year.
Ms. Nieves, the Marketing Committee?
We meet the third Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. via Zoom.
Negotiations Committee?
We meet at,
As needed, as
Madam
necessary.
President, we
As-
actually meet
as
required, in conjunction with the WTEA and the WTAA. We do a match of schedules, and there could be 3 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the moment, we'll have none until the contracts expires.
Right,
They're very sporadic,
right.
but the business office is a part of that team, as well as the HR department, Dr. Carcamo, 3 board members, and myself.
Thank you, Mr. All righty, thank you, Mr. Long. Operations Committee?
yes, yes, we meet every Tuesday before the last meeting of the month. And our
Okay.
time is at 5:30.
Okay, so you also meet on the fourth Tuesday of the month?
Yes,
Okay, as well does the Athletic Committee? Okay. And at what time, Ms. Dredden?
5:30 on WebEx.
Okay, thank you. And I think I've stated the schedule for when the Policy Committee meets. I see that our student rep was not able to,
She's not present today.
Vice President. All right, board members, moving forward with our agenda, I'm on page 3. I'm asking at this time for a motion to approve the superintendent's report as it appears at the top of page 3 and continues through to the top of page 8. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the superintendent's report.
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Mr. Askew. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Askew? Ms. Dredden?
Yes,
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Nieves?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas? Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Pitts?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you. Moving now, board members, I'm at the middle of page 8. I'm asking for a motion to approve the Business Administrative Board Secretary's report as it begins at the middle of page 8 and continues through to the bottom of page 27. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the board secretary's report.
Moved by Ms. Page 27?
no,
Hold it. Okay, I have a page, hold on.
You have some of the personnel stuff.
Did I? I'm sorry, I skipped. Let me repeat that. I'm sorry, I gathered too many pages. The Business Administrative Board Secretary's report, let me restate that, as it begins at the middle of page 8 and continues through to the top of page 13. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the business administrator board secretary's report.
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Mr. Askew. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Askew? Yes. Ms. Dredden?
yes,
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Nieves?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas? Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Pitts?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you. Moving now, board members, I am now at the middle of page 13 I'm asking for a motion to approve the personnel report that begins at the middle of page 13 and that continues through to the bottom of page 27. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the personnel report?
Second motion.
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Mr. Askew. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Askew,
Yes.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Nieves,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas, Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Pitts.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you. Moving now, board members, top of page 28, we're moving to our addendum, and that's that nice pink sheet that we usually get in our folder. And I feel certain that we've had an opportunity to read through it. So therefore, I am going to ask for a motion to approve the business administrator, board secretary's report as it appears on our addendum, beginning on page 1 and continuing through to page 4. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the business administrator, board secretary's report as it appears on the addendum?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Mr. Askew. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Askew,
Yes.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Nieves,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas, Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Pitts.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you, Ms. Chico. Moving now to the Open Public Records Act request. Ms. Chico?
Yes. The Winslow Township Board of Ed responded to a few OPA requests that were done between March 22nd, 2024 and April 18th, 2024. The first one was requested from Ms. Christy Renzulli, and she wanted the 23-24 discipline numbers reports from September 2023 through, sorry. Christy Renzulli requested the 23-24 discipline numbers from report from September 2023 through February 2024 for Winslow Township High School. They wanted the number of sanctions given in monthly breakout to include category and severity of discipline and also number of sanctions by month served of those that were given. This request was denied. The information requested does not exist in the form requested. Stephen Van Oyn of the New Jersey Labor Shield LLC requested bid documents for A1 construction services for a rebid middle school facade restoration. That was approved. Talisa Hilton of the New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Development requested information on Alper Enterprise Inc. for the 21-22 school year, and that included contractual agreements, applications of payments submitted, certified payrolls that were submitted for the project, bid documents, purchase orders, and copies of certified payrolls. Contractual agreements did not exist. Neither did the bid documents, but everything else was approved and submitted. Lastly, Talisa Hilton also requested records related to the commercial contracting LLC from 2020, the entire year for Winslow Township High School. Requested signed copies of any purchase orders that were part of a master agreement, copies of all invoices, copies of certified payrolls, copies of bid documents, copies of prevailing wage determination, application payments, and manpower reports. Half of the items did not exist and we couldn't get them, but we did give them purchase orders, invoices, certified payrolls, and copies of payment applications that they were in because they were a sub of D'Andrea. And that concludes the OPA request.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Chico.
Madam President.
Yes, Mr. Long.
When you see that a contract doesn't exist,
Mhm.
the documents don't exist, I want to emphasize that these are subcontractors.
Mhm.
There are bid documents that exist and were supplied, as requested, but for the prime contractor, the
Mhm.
general contractor, so to speak. So it's not, the school is not what we call legally in privity of contract with the subcontractors, although it's our contractor's obligation to ensure that they're complying with the laws and submitting the appropriate information to us. So what we do get some information from the subs, particularly like whether they're complying with the Prevailing Wage Act, things of that nature, things that by law they're required to supply us. But we would never have bid documents for a subcontractor because they don't bid with us. They might submit a proposal to the general. And again, there wouldn't be any POs to the subcontractor because we pay the general contractor and they pay their subs. So they're not abnormal denials. I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Thank you very much. Moving now, board members, to informational items. Dr. Potteet?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board and community, I have several information items for this evening. As you well know, on an annual basis during Memorial Day, our township committee have a Memorial Day service. Mayor Lawrence sent us correspondence, wanted to know whether or not the Winslow Township School Board will be participating this year for the placing of the wreath. We've participated in the past. It's that time again, and Mayor Lawrence would like to know, will the school district have a wreath to place this year? Madam President, you normally have a representation, so at this time, if you wanted to take care of that tonight, if not, at some point, let me know so we can contact Mrs. Lawrence and let them know whether or not we are participating, and if we are, who those individuals will be.
Well, in the interest of saving time, Dr. Potteet, we can resolve that, or we can answer that, because we do have a board member who happens to be our only veteran on the board, and that's Mr. Shaw, and he has done that very well in the past. And Mr. Shaw, I don't want to assume, but I'm taking this opportunity to ask you if you will also do that again.
I will be there anyway, so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shaw, so we can let the mayor know that Mr. Shaw, do we still have our wreath?
Yes, we do.
Oh, we do? You have it, Ms. Martin?
I have possession
Oh,
of
you
the
have
wreath.
possession of it. Okay, so Dr. Potteet, you can
Is Mr. Shaw the only one who will be participating?
No, I will be
No.
attendant also.
No, board members, A or nay, let Dr. Potteet know, because most of us do attend, Dr.
Yes.
Potteet. Ms. Peterson,
I will be there.
Mr. Thomas,
Absolutely.
Ms. Nieves,
I'm not sure at this time.
Ms. Dredden,
I'll be there.
Mr. Askew. Okay, and Ms. Kelly, Ms. Kelly Thomas? Okay, so you can,
Right now you have 7.
yes.
Okay. Just for your information, that is Monday, May 27th
Mhm.
at 10 a.m. At the War Memorial on the Winslow Township Municipal Complex. All right? My next information item, the Winslow Township Police Department and the Camden County Prosecutor's Office will be sponsoring a game night Friday, April 26th from 5 to 8 p.m. at our school number 4 in the gymnasium. This will give all of our residents, particularly our young people, an opportunity to meet and greet the Winslow Township Police Department and the Camden County Prosecutor's Office personnel in a game atmosphere, and give everyone an opportunity to get a better understanding of what the police do in our community in a non-threatening way. And they're asking everyone to come out to participate in all the games they have. It's considered a fun night.
And so, Dr. Potteet, you said that's Friday?
That's
That's
Friday, April 26th.
The day after tomorrow, right? This Friday.
It's this Friday coming. As a matter of fact, Madam President, you approved it tonight
Mm-hmm,
in our agenda.
mm-hmm.
All right?
And
School number 4,
what's the time again?
5 to 8. 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
And it's at school 4?
at school number 4.
Okay.
Madam President, members of the board, you should find in your folders this evening from Strauss Esme. They are having their annual educational policy and school law seminar Friday, May 31st from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. At the Brookdale Community College. Normally, we have some board members participate on a regular basis. That information is made available to you this evening. You must register by May 15th. So if any of you are going to attend, I would ask that you reach out to Mrs. Chico at your earliest convenience. All right? My last piece of information, Madam President, as we had shared earlier, last week, we had an opportunity to meet with Assemblyman Cody Miller at his office. Cody Miller made it very clear that he wanted to meet with us. He wanted to hear from school districts in the areas in which he represents. He had asked us if we had any concerns in reference to education for the upcoming school year and any other educational concerns in general. As you recall, I did share with him that staffing is a major concern in our school district as well as across the state, particularly in areas of special education, science, mathematics, and world language. I also shared with him that teacher certification continues to be a challenge in the state of New Jersey. We are aware and appreciate the steps that the governor and the commissioner have made to make teacher certification more applicable to those individuals interested in becoming teachers. However, the other challenge is the number of young people in the pipeline to become teachers is not plentiful, and the projection in the broadcast is if that doesn't change within the immediate future, within the next 10, 15 years, the state of education and the possibility of having teachers is going to be in a very, very difficult situation. I also shared with him, as you recall, special education, the cost of special education in general, as well as the cost of outer district placement of those students. The rising cost of transportation was another topic we discussed. Of course, fuel costs, the cost of contracted services for those the commission in which we contract a lot of our services out for those young people out of district, that cost continues to rise. The school funding formula, as you recall, we had a brief discussion about the school funding formula and how districts receive their state aid. As you all recall, Mrs. Pitts, Mrs. Peterson, and Mr. Thomas were members of that group that represented Winslow Township School District. Assemblyman Miller, appeared to be very, very knowledgeable of those issues that are hampering education. He said he would like to continue to have these discussions with us, and he also made it a promise to us that he will also continue to address these issues down in Trenton on behalf of the Winslow Township School District and all of the school districts in which he represents in District 4. Madam President, that concludes my information items for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Poteet. Board members, any questions or comments for Dr. Poteet? All right, moving now to our old business. Would there be any old business board members that you would care to discuss at this time? Hearing none, but I would like to remind us, board members, that we do have a responsibility annually to submit a financial statement. And as you know, that financial statement has to be in by April 30th, which is next Tuesday. The ramifications for not doing that would be that we would be disciplined and in some cases removed from the board. So please make sure, because though that financial statement was sent to us by the board administrator, I believe, check your email, February 1st.
Yes.
It was sent to us February 1st. So please, we only have until Tuesday to make sure that we complete that financial statement. All right, moving also, I want to remind us, along with the financial statement, board members, that we do have our board self-evaluation, which again is also an annual um, activity that we must make sure that we do, as well as the superintendent's evaluation, which we need to be taking a look at. NJSBA does send us a template in order to follow. That is to be done by June 30th. Continuing with any additional old business, it has to do with, just to remind us, we need to, board members, decide whether or not we're going to continue to stagger our board meetings. As you know, because of the audio problems, was mentioned before, how it can be difficult in this cafeteria, and we decided that we would do one meeting in the high school auditorium and then another meeting, the second meeting here in the cafeteria. What we need to know going forward, because right now we're coming to the end of the school year and we probably won't be going back to the auditorium for the next 2 months, really. This is April, May, and June. So we need to know, board members, I need to hear from you whether or not, how are we going to continue the location of our board meetings? Comments,
Madam President.
suggestions? Ms. Martin?
Yes, you said that we will not be able to go to the high school for the next 2 months?
No, what I'm saying is that it's not likely that we'll be going and looking at the schedule of our upcoming board meetings for the next 2 months. I believe they're all are scheduled for here.
No,
No?
we still meet our first meeting at the administration building, and the second meeting
Is here.
is here or the high school. So you have to decide whether or not you want to come to the middle school or the high school. If you want to change the venue to the high school, we have to know, because you have to advertise in advance that we're changing the venue. So at this point, the reason we're back here, one, we were only supposed to do it a couple of times just to try it out to see if it worked. Two, if you were going to go back to the high school, then I need to know so that Mrs. Chico can do the adverse advertising of change of venues so that we can do it in advance.
Comments, board members? What is your
Did we
pleasure?
receive any different feedback from being here compared to the high school or the board offices?
I have not received any directly to me. I know at one point it came up at one of our meetings, and there were some individuals in the community who expressed one way or the other. But at this point, it's your call. You're the ones who are presenting, of course, and whether or not you feel that it's a better location as opposed to here, it's your decision to make.
I'd like to make a comment on that if I can.
Okay, Mr. Thomas?
Given, this past week, we had a teen summit where we listened to the students and the parents. And what I got from it, not saying that everybody got this, but what I got from it, the social climate, the culture, and the atmosphere matters. So if we want to build for the future, sometimes we have to do something a little uncomfortable now in order to be built up for what's coming down the road. In my opinion, the atmosphere of the gym is conducive to where we're heading, where the kids would like to be, and where the parents prefer to come. So if I just want to go on record saying that it was a great experience being in the high school, and I believe that's where we're at some point, that's where we'll be.
Wait, now, are you saying, you said the gym or the high school?
The auditorium at the high school.
Okay. So okay. Mr. Tom, anybody else?
I would suggest the auditorium at the high school.
Any other comments?
Madam President, I don't suggest the auditorium at the high school. I feel that when I was up there, it was really hard to listen from the person down at the other end, what they were saying. It was really hard to hear. And you hear much better here in the middle school as well as the municipal building. I think that the two buildings that we are using before the auditorium is much better.
Yeah, I like the, and I know. You don't get a vote. I don't.
But he has an opinion.
But I can't hear there. I like it. I like
But
the
you
setup.
can't hear. You cannot hear.
The public person speaking, with the board members on the far side. But I love the atmosphere. It's certainly much better than this.
Mr. Askew?
I tend to agree. It's very difficult to hear my fellow board members on stage, being in high school. I would move to have it in this location.
Okay, Ms. Nieves, we haven't heard from you yet?
From what I've heard from the community members, the high school auditorium is better for sound, and as long as board members are speaking into the microphones, it picks up better at home for those who are streaming, so my vote is for the high school auditorium.
So my thought is congruent with Mr. Askew, and the reason why I thought this location allows for a more social, emotional connection with our audience. On stage, yes, it was difficult, but then I felt I was further removed and I couldn't provide that social, emotional connection.
Okay, so, and Miss Kelly Thomas? We do have a delay, but I know she's, the discussion is, I need to know your opinion with regards to the location of our board meetings, the auditorium versus the cafeteria. Okay, so, okay, just for clarification purposes, I'm going to ask for a roll call. And I'm going to do the roll call. I'm going to ask board members. The question is, with regards to having our board meetings, the first one, cafeteria, the second one, cafeteria?
Or just say cafeteria or.
Okay, so,
High school or middle school.
all right, so I'm asking, as we go down, if you would just let us know whether you would prefer to have the meetings in the auditorium, simply say high school auditorium or middle school cafeteria. That's quick and easy enough, right? So Mr. Askew, I'm going to ask again, your preference? Middle school. Ms. Dredden, your preference?
Middle school cafeteria.
Ms. Martin, your preference?
High school auditorium.
Ms. Nieves, your preference?
High school.
Ms. Peterson, your preference?
Middle school.
Mr. Shaw, your preference?
High school auditorium.
Ms. Thomas already stated hers was the middle school. Mr. Thomas, your preference?
High school.
My preference would be the middle school. So of looking at, for the middle school, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 for the middle school. For the high school, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the majority of the board has decided to have the meetings remain at the middle school. Ms. Chico, did you get that?
Yes,
Okay.
I got that.
And if further explanation is needed, we'll do that.
Okay.
All right, going back to old business. I believe that we talked about, I'm moving now to new business. Board members, even though we're about 3 months out, I want us to begin to take a look at our date for our retreat, our board retreat, which is always held in August, on a Saturday in August. There's 5, I believe there's 5 Saturdays this year. So if you could begin to think about that and give me your preferences. Because again, this is for the sake of any new members, the retreat is something that we are required to do every year. It's very informal. It's also, of course, done in public, and it's done usually on a Saturday, and we usually go from 9 in the morning until 1. And at that particular retreat, we talk about the upcoming goals, we review them, board goals, district goals, we assess them. We have Ms. Terry Lewis, our New Jersey School Board representative, who comes in and conducts it. Okay, so just kind of think about it. It will again be held in August, on a Saturday in August.
Well, Mrs. Pitts, I need to let you know now because
Dr. Poteet?
Yes, I will not be available the week of August 5th through the 10th.
August, okay, so is that the first Saturday
Well,
in August?
No, that's the second Saturday, but that's a short week. It's the first, second, third, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Mhm.
But the week I'm not available would be
So the Saturday you will not be available would be August 5th?
10th.
August 10th,
Right.
okay. All right, thank you, Dr. Poteet. I would just end by making some comments, and Mr. Thomas did mention it, and I thought hopefully that Mr. Shropshire would say, but he's not, and make some comments, statements about the team summit, which was the first one that we've had. It was held this past Saturday here in the cafeteria, and several board members assisted, participated, and it was a fun-filled day. It was a day that allowed board members also to hear from students, to talk to students and parents. And of the board members who attended, would you have any comments about the day itself? I think Mr. Thomas did.
Yeah, I have another comment about that.
Okay, Mr. Thomas.
I'd like to give kudos to Kelly Thomas because she was the pioneer of that event. She had a vision, she worked the vision, she put her time, her effort into the vision, and the vision came to pass. And like I say, when we needed something, she was there. She needed to be commended for the work and the vision that she had for that event to make sure that we achieved, and I believe our students and our parents achieved from the work of Ms. Kelly Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. But again, Mr. Thomas, giving all kudos to Ms. Thomas, Ms. Kelly Thomas. He's absolutely right. It was her brainchild. But Mr. Thomas also is humble. He's not really mentioning his part. He was a real spark on Saturday. He came out like, now I don't know the names of these rappers. Give me a break on that. But he was dressed like a rapper. That's all I have to say. He was a cool guy. And it went well. So, any other? Oh, Mr. Shaw.
Mrs. Pitts, on Saturday, the township has a bunch of things going on. From 10 to 12 a.m., 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. They have a career fair at the Bud Dubel Center where a whole variety of things, employers and trades will be there for Dr. Poteet, for our seniors. If they're not interested in going to college, this would be a great thing for them to do, even maybe our juniors. I'll be there representing the Carpenters Union. So if they're interested to stop on by, that'd be a great thing. And then right after that, over at school number 6 from 12 to 6 p.m., the Young Entrepreneurs Expo will be going on. So I would highly suggest from the career fair, go right on over to the Young Entrepreneurs Expo. It's going to be an action-packed day on Saturday, and I will be moving on over to between both of them. So I already told my son he's going to both. So,
Mr. Shaw, that's this weekend?
Yes, this weekend.
The 20th.
Is it a job fair?
It's a career fair for.
Career fair? Okay.
There's all kinds of different employers and careers that are going to be there.
Right, it's being billed as a job fair. If you've seen the posters around town.
Yeah, the township's got
Excuse
all
me,
kinds
it's a
of
job
things for the
fair.
career fair, and Mr. Watkins is for promoting the young entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
So that it's going to be an amazing thing that's going to happen this weekend.
And I believe they're both township events.
Yeah, they're both township events.
Okay, any other further?
Yes, Madam President, I do. I want to state this for the record.
Mr. Thomas? Mhm.
I attended a stakeholders meeting last night. There was somewhere from about 75 to 100 people in there. And the school board came up and the issue of accountability was brought up about our school and the accountability of the board and the accountability of the staff of our board. So I'm asking that I'm allowed a few minutes in executive session to discuss some of their concerns and some of my concerns as well, just to see if we can work this out and see if we can do better in the position of accountability.
Now, Mr. Thomas, unless it's something that's confidential, any discussions that we have as a board, we must have in public.
Okay, well, I'll read what I have.
Okay, good.
Based on the statement.
Now, Mr. Thomas, if I could ask a question or two.
Go ahead.
This was a meeting, could you tell me where it was held?
It was a township committee meeting.
Oh, it was a township committee meeting?
Yes, with the governing body.
Right.
And about 75 to 100 stakeholder residents was involved. They were there to discuss another issue, but on public comments, we had several people to come up and talk about the accountability of the board.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I did respond, but I want to also make you aware of their concerns and some of the concerns I have as well.
Okay, good.
So I prepared a little statement, just bear with me. Based on the statement, the board is not responsible for running the district, but we are responsible for making sure the district runs. And how do we do that? By asking questions. It has been my short experience that asking questions can make people feel uncomfortable. Therefore, that answer you may receive is scripted. I have gotten comments like, "Why are you asking that?" That is not my responsibility. We do not have that, or that is something we don't do. On one occasion, myself, I had to make an Oprah request. On multiple occasions, I do not get an answer. We don't recall you asking for that. Those are some of the comments that I've received. The stakeholders' discussions on accountability are not just conversation. They are crucial to ensuring the district's operation and introducing new ideas for student achievement. Some people call it psychological safety. That is when no question is wrong, no question is judged, and every question is listened to. I know that I've asked for several things. On September 9th, 2024, I asked about the budget for the Booster Club. Second, I continually ask about sponsorship and a template letter that will help again donations through local businesses and contribution. Last month, I asked about new initiatives and learning and was told we brought new textbooks and we wouldn't be able to validate the process for 5 years, the progress for 5 years. I just recently asked for the budget report for the band. I could go on. But these are some of the concerns that we have about accountability. If our only mechanism is to ask questions, but yet we're not comfortable when the questions are asked.
It has been the particular concern of this board that any question, there is no such thing as a question that need not be answered. There is no such thing as a question that is not important. However, questions will be answered. It may not be the answer that the questioner may want, but we should understand that as a board and as a district, we work collaboratively. We work collaboratively. And if there are some hurdles, if there are some misunderstandings that, especially in communication, then we need to address it. And Mr. Thomas, some of those question statements, not some, all of them can be actually addressed and answered. And so, Board, I'm asking you now, we've heard what Mr. Thomas said now, because I was concerned because he started out by saying, I thought that the whole township committee meeting was about us, but that's not the case, as I understand it. But there were some statements about the school board, and I would, my first response would be that those who have those concerns, and they certainly are legitimate, if they would come out and address the board with them. Now, we are trying very hard, and we've done, I think, a fairly good job in reaching out to the community. So far, this school year, we have not had what we have had in the past, and that is a school board town meeting. We haven't had that this school year. But again, if folks have concerns, and accountability certainly would be a concern. Accountability is the right hand and the left hand is responsibility. If they would come to the board, and if perhaps they're not comfortable in speaking in public, there's 9 of us. All of our locations are available to the public. Then you can always come to any one of us and speak your concern, because to speak to one of us is to speak to all of us. Because no decisions come out of here, come out of one person. This is a board of education. One person alone is just one person alone. The majority rules. There's a reason why there's 9 of us on this board, and there's a reason why our governing body is also composed of 9 individuals. Because we need to get a cross-section. We need to be able to address the concerns of everyone. So I thank you for bringing that to us, Mr. Thomas. And board members, I'd like to hear if you have any comments at this time.
Madam President, I do have some
Ms. Peterson.
comments.
Ms.
And
Peterson.
I thought I projected loud enough so everyone could hear me. I do have some comments as it relates to education. And I think anyone can come to the Education Committee long as we keep the numbers down to 4. But with education, you have to try certain things and you do an assessment before and assessment afterwards. I shared with Mr. Thomas that in looking at our school demographics, which we all know that it's almost 25% special needs and some of the other things, and we might be a transit population. So you have to look at all the factors that makes education flourish. And I do believe even those that have special needs can flourish. I've been in education for the past 46 years, and I'm pre-K through college. So it's called pre-K to 20. And I think when you look at it, when they say textbooks, you don't just renew the textbooks every year, but you have a long-range plan, a 5-year plan, just like with the assessments. Now, if you go back to the Department of Education, for those that are in education, they know that how many assessment tests have we had, different ones have we had over the past 10 years. Mr. Dale, you probably can say it quite well, how many have we had? So each time you look at it, they're striving to try to get one that's fairer and more equitable for everyone. And that's a task in itself. So I think, when you say stakeholders, you have to know who's working with them and who's answering the questions. Saturday was the perfect opportunity for me. And I did refer 3 of our students that are here at the middle school, because we had a conversation, a long conversation on their career goals and what did they see. And one said, I want to be a psychologist. I smiled at her and I gave her some resources. Then her mom came. That's that one-on-one. That's that social emotional learning. So that you say, oh, you want to be a psychologist. Do you know what it entails. And it was the best opportunity. Those young ladies did not leave until their mother came up, and then she started talking. And so we were here in the lobby for a while. So I think, sometimes people need to know and flesh it out. I applaud those that are having the different workshops. Each of our school, at least School 4, all of them, over the time that I've been on the board, have had different career expos so that they start early. That's upper elementary, but it starts early. And so we look at the different opportunities that our students have. And I think that's something that's really a great incentive for our students to say, I want to do this, I want to do. I'm very proud of it because I say I work at Rowan, and our SGA president is also a proud Winslow. I know that there's some that are first African-American engineering student, Winslow, and she made us proud. So when I start looking at all the females that are going into engineering have come from Winslow. So we're doing something right. So you have to look at the assessment, and you cannot assess someone's abilities over just 1 year period, because we grow. Each year we should be growing. Even as adults, I grow every year.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. And I just want to pick up on the word assessment and say just one sentence with regards to the team summit. I want everyone to know that the team summit was just not an event that happened and you won't hear anything more. We will then assess that team summit to find out exactly what did we learn from it and how did it help. So there will be a report coming out on the team summit, just as a point of information.
And can I go back? We did have a discussion with the members of town council, and there was supposed to be a follow-up meeting with a few of us to talk about futuristic things. Now, we did do that under the former mayor, and we did have a township liaison group, and that was under the Honorable Barry Wright. We did do that. So I think sometimes we have to look at what we have.
Any other comments with regards to what Mr. Thomas reported out to us? No other comments, board members? Thank you. Mr. Long, can proceed to public comments.
Certainly. Public comment. The Winslow Township Board of Education highly values the input of citizens in making the important decisions that affect the children of our community. We also believe in the rights of citizens to observe board meetings, to ensure that all of our citizens have the opportunity to attend school board meetings and offer comment, and to ensure that the board can conduct the important business of the district. We ask that the speakers follow the guidelines for making public comments. The board secretary will recognize those individuals in the audience who wish to make public comment, and we ask that you kindly respect the following procedures. 1, all members of the public attending school board meetings must treat each other and the board with respect. 2, state your full name and address. 3, please limit your comments to 4 minutes. 4, in the event they're unable to answer your question, submit your question along with your name, address, and telephone number where you can be contacted, and your questions will be answered within a reasonable time frame. And lastly, individuals offering citizen comment are not permitted to make personal attacks on any district employee, board member, other testifier, or member of the public.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Board members, I'm asking for a motion to approve our moving into public comment.
Motion to approve opening into public comments?
Second the motion.
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Mr. Askew. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Ms. Chico?
Stephen Deo.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Dr. Deo, 104 Rose Court, Sicklerville. I do want to reiterate again the sound concerns. For those of you that have been speaking into the microphones, it is very much appreciated. As was mentioned, there is a live stream of these meetings. It is very difficult to hear. So I just, again, want to reiterate, it is very important that the taxpayers hear us clearly. So please use those microphones. I'd like to expand upon Mr. Thomas's astute comments, specifically that I have been here addressing the board about taxpayers' concerns going on 2 years. However, tonight, I bore witness to the approval of the superintendent's report, including the suspension report, which is on page 8, listed as Exhibit XB2. The community's concerns over violent acts, and this is part of the suspension report. I will not read it all, but including unsafe conduct, sexual harassment, fighting, insubordination during emergency situations, willful destruction of school property, reckless endangerment, use and abuse of drugs, physical assault, and disrespect towards staff, just to name a few. These are the reasons why people like myself withdraw their students, their children from these schools. This is the reason why so many staff resign from these schools. This is why we have the largest choice participation program rate, is because people are removing their children due to an unsafe, violent culture within the schools. I shared last month that my therapeutic learning model has been doing wonders for students in Camden. It gives them a reason to come to school each day, where we build them up. And it is linked to the literature of my doctoral dissertation on social and emotional learning. So I completely understand your poignant comments, ma'am. However, I am concerned that the culture and climate in these schools is not conducive to teaching and learning. Just one look at this superintendent's report, specifically on the out-of-school suspensions, not just the number of them, but again, please look at the violent nature of these offenses. I appreciate every one of you taking your time to review the cell phone policy as it relates to electronics. This certainly shows that you are more than committed to supporting the community and hearing their concerns. I simply ask that you provide the same scrutiny to these violent acts that continue to be reported each month in the superintendent's report, but since September of this school year, continue to increase at an alarming rate. Since the integration of my therapeutic learning model in Camden, we have not seen these type of suspension reports. This district, as Ms. Peterson shared, has so many great things to be proud of. Every month that I come here, I hear about wonderful events for the students, extracurricular activities, Mr. Thomas's poignant comments about the athletics and supports within the town. But we can't continue to allow this unsafe environment for our children. Thank you for your time.
Debbie Murphy.
What was the first name, Ms. Chico?
Debbie.
Oh, Debbie.
Debbie, sorry.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Debbie Murphy, and I would like to thank you guys for your reconsideration of the cell phone policy. I do have one question. What is the timeline for parents who work all day who can't just come to the school and pick up their phone because there's no time to?
That's your question?
Yeah. And
Oh, that's an easy one. That's an easy one. Dr. Poteet can answer that. And it won't interfere with your 4 minutes. Dr. Poteet?
Yes, the building principal will make it at the convenience of the parent. they'll just make arrangements for that to happen.
Oh, okay. And then, as a member of the marching band, I would like to invite you guys to see the marching band and the guard at our chapters competition. It is this Sunday at Eastern. The marching band goes on at 1:22, and the guard goes on at 5:22. And it is one of our biggest competitions, and we would just like to see some board support. Thank
Okay,
you.
Ms. Murphy, you said the marching band comes on at 1:22?
Yeah.
Okay. And then at 5:22?
And then our guard has their own show, so they're
Uh-huh.
on at 5:22.
Okay, and that's at Eastern?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's on Sunday.
The 28th, April 28th?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for your
Okay.
time. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Sabrina Smith.
Good evening. My name is Sabrina Smith. I live at 15 Langdon Court, Sicklerville, New Jersey. I actually have a high school senior that is walking this year, and I also have now a repeating sixth grader, and my youngest, who is autistic, goes to school two. School two does awesome with that program. I received a phone call from my sister. On Friday. Her daughter is a senior as well. Apparently, because my daughter has finished her school program, I'm trying to figure out why the high school's bathrooms are locked down. Quite a few students wound up having to walk out of school on Friday because staff wouldn't let them use the bathroom. One of the young ladies is pregnant, and the nurse wouldn't even let her use the bathroom. And in return, those students are suspended. Those seniors cannot walk for graduation. So I need that investigated. Also, I'm getting word that there are roaches and there are mice running around the high school. So an exterminator needs to be sent out to remedy this situation. Thank you for your time. That's all I have to say for tonight.
Ms. Chico?
Yes, I'm sorry. Letitia Harrista.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I did want to just commend Mr. Dale. Thank you, because you touched on a lot of the stuff that I was going to talk about. And just to piggyback off of that, just in February, there were over 80 high school students suspended for use of electronic devices. My son was one of those students, but the kids on this list all got 2 days. My son ended up with 4. Same suspension, but that's okay. I'm glad y'all did take into consideration changing the policy. I do have a few things that I wanted to discuss. I know I will have to save them for the next meeting. My first one is that I do notice the last few meetings I've been to, majority of all your fundraisers and programs are targeted towards the elementary school. What about the high school and the middle school students? They matter. They matter. They are our future as well. Half of the high school students don't even know how to write in cursive. But y'all are starting a pilot SEL program that's only accommodated up to 6th grade. What about the middle school students? What about the high school students? What about the kids that are getting ready to come out of school and still have to grow up and be adults? They should be offered the same opportunities. Then also, I'm gonna cut it off with this one, and I'll save the rest for later. I also heard something about the special education. I have a student that has an IEP, and he's receiving the bare minimum of services that he's supposed to get under an IEP, but y'all have the budget and funds for special education. So I need to know why that is not, he's not being accommodated as he's supposed to be. I'll put that in writing, but that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Dr. Poti, can you just speak to the fact that the fundraiser is not anything that we do? Is it Ms. Harrison? Okay, since you really didn't use up all your 4 Board Members, Dr. Potteet can respond to a couple of your comments. All right?
Well, the fundraisers. Fundraisers are at the discretion of the building principal, the teachers, the HSA. There is no limit as to where they can have their fundraisers, who can have them. So if you have a very active HSA at the lower elementary or upper elementary schools, that's where you're going to see a lot of the fundraisers. There are fundraisers at the high school, particularly for the seniors during project graduation, but there's no limit. There's no one saying that the high school students cannot do them, as well as the middle school. So it's at the discretion of the staff, the students, the HSA of those schools. It's unlimited. So there's no sanction that says, well, it can only happen at one level in middle school and high school. You can't do it. That's not the case. All right. The SEL program, primarily at the upper elementary school, at this point is targeting soccer. As you know, interscholastic athletics are at the middle school and the high school. This is just an opportunity because the upper elementary school, of course, as you know, do not have any athletic programs, and in most cases they don't. This was an opportunity spearheaded by Mr. Thomas to give these young people an opportunity not only to have a sport during this season, but during that sport athletic or activity time, give them an opportunity to have some other growing activities to address some of the social emotional. So that's why we targeted the upper elementary school in an athletic / SEL way, because athletics are not provided at that level. High school and middle school have multiple athletic programs. So that was the reason.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Potteet. Ms. Chico?
That concludes the people who signed up here. Is anyone in the waiting room?
Is there anyone in the technicians? Anyone? No one in the waiting room? Yes, no? No. Okay, therefore, at this time, board members, I'm asking for a motion to adjourn public comments.
Motion to adjourn public comments?
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Mr. Askew. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Long.
We do have one matter for executive session, Madam President. Conveyed to me by Mr. Davis. I appreciate the detail on that. Very helpful.
Mr. Long? Yes. We have 3 matters.
You have 3 matters?
Yes. If you go to the executive session sheet, you'll see that we have 1 legal matter, 1 personnel matter, and 1 policy matter.
All right. Policy. Oh, yes. We have 3 matters, board members.
Yeah, we do. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, the board will be adjourning into executive session on April 24th, 2024 at 9:05 p.m. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, we'll be entering into matters number 8, matters involving employment and suspensions of employment, as well as number 7, matters regarding litigation and matters falling within the attorney-client privilege. Dr. Potteet, do you have any understanding of approximately how long we'd be?
We shouldn't be more than 30 minutes at the most.
I'll say 30 minutes in duration, and up for a motion, Madam President.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Long. Board members, at this time, I'm asking for a motion to approve our moving into executive session.
Motion to move to an executive session?
Moved by Mr. Shaw, second by Mr. Askew. Roll call, please.
Mr. Askew?
Yes.
Ms. Dredden?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Nieves? Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
She may have moved on. Go ahead.
Ms. Thomas?
She may be, move on.
She may have
Okay,
moved on.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Pitts?
Yes,
Motion is carried.
thank you. At this point, board members, we are adjourning into executive session.